Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Get this through your head. We can't get back. That means we are trapped here in this planet's past, just as we are. And we'll stay here for the rest of our lives. Now, do you understand?
Yes, I understand. I never thought I'd hear it. But I understand. You want to stay here. As a matter of fact, you're highly motivated to stay in this forsaken waste.
The prospect appeared quite attractive to you a moment ago.
Now you listen to me, you pointed-eared Vulcan.
I don't like that. I don't think I ever did, and now I'm sure.
What's happening to you, Spock?
Nothing that shouldn't have happened long ago.
I suppose I should do the same thing. Get all my coffee.
I'm going to save my coughs for comic
relief.
Coughing.
Cosmic
Not
comic
relief,
coughing.
just comic disruption.
Comic disruption. All right. That's going to be your new nickname, Jesse. Comic disruption. Okay. All right. All right. Right on. All right. Hello. Let's go. Let's start the podcast. Okay. I thought that might happen. All right.
I don't like that.
Okay. All right. That's why they call him, what was it? Comic disruption? Cosmic?
I forget.
Some sort of disruption. Anyway, Jesse is a disruptive force.
Totally. I'm wild card.
Okay. Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
That is true.
With us as always.
You take it away, Jesse. Who's with us?
Me and Dan.
Good.
Oh, wonderful.
Patrick.
That's right. Me. That's me. I'm Patrick. Okay.
That's him.
Hello. This is the 229th episode of the It's Got Star Trek podcast. And this week, we will be discussing the classic, well, yeah, I think you could call this a classic. It's
Old Scientists.
It's the original series show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Star Trek, the original series.
Those Old Scientists.
It is the penultimate episode of
Yeah.
Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is entitled All Our Yesterdays.
I'm game, love. This episode didn't really make a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
There was like
late TOS.
there was like two different like concepts
There were
going.
some weird things.
There was like this one part they introduced that like was just like it seemed completely irrelevant
Yeah.
to the plot.
No, I agree.
And we'll get into
It
that.
was like a TAS episode.
It was in some ways. It was a good transition into the TAS era.
So first,
TAS era.
the apparently the first fop was played by Ed Bakey.
Okay, is that somebody we should know?
No, but I thought that was a cool name, and I thought it was
yeah, no,
interesting that he was called the
Well,
first
some
fop.
of those.
But
some
you know
of
what a
those
fop
people are
is, right?
interesting.
Yeah, I know what a fop is.
A fop is a coxcomb. You know what a coxcomb is, right? It's a dandy.
A dandy.
Okay.
A dandy. boy.
Dandy, coxcomb, and fop. And the lady refers to them as coxcombs at one point in this episode. But
Okay.
again, as you
And,
said, Dan, we will get to that.
And it was directed by
Marvin-
Marvin Chomsky.
Yeah, Marvin Chomsky.
Gnome! It's Marvin! Your cousin Marvin Chomsky!
I was gonna do that joke, you bastard.
Hey, that's a good joke. Both of you are clever guys. That's
awesome.
clever. Because I thought of Noam Chomsky, but I didn't think of the joke.
You know, your cousin.
Marvin Chomsky.
Do any of you know the star date?
Yeah, it's 5943.7.
That's right. And do you know what's interesting about this star date?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you what's interesting.
I don't know.
At least if we can trust our friends over at Memory Alpha, which is that even though this is the penultimate episode of the series, and was the penultimate episode produced in the series, I believe. Maybe even anti-penultimate episode produced in the series. The star date is apparently after the star date of all the other episodes. So this would technically,
this one is actually in order, in some kind
this
of
would
order.
be the actual last adventure in the internal timeline.
So even though the star dates were all pretty random, this one actually is relative to the rest the final one.
I think as TOS went on, they got a little less random. There's probably an Elvis joke in there, but I'm not coming up with it. So
An
it's just a
Elvis
little-
joke?
Yeah, like a little less, instead of a little less conversation, a little less random, except random does not have enough syllables to make the joke. And I'm not clever enough to have replaced the word random with something similar that has enough syllables.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you all right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Before we get to the core discussion of the episode, however, we should go over the other bits and pieces that we need to go over.
No.
We got a couple of voicemails. So we got to do the voicemails. And we got to mention our Patreon. If people want to check out our Patreon,
If it pleases you.
it's patreon.com/It's Got Star Trek. You can go check it out. By the way, you can sign up for free. You can check it out for free.
That is true.
You can get previews of stuff. You can listen to just enough. And be like,
Absolutely.
this is fun.
Just enough.
And there's some free content up there.
I've had just enough.
And then you get a little extra. You get a little extra if you want to toss a few bones our way.
You're a bully fine coup for all of that.
But it's up to you, of course. If you'd like to go check it out, go check it out. If not, don't worry about it. All right?
What are
Good.
you worried about?
Don't even worry about it. All right. We'll go straight to mail 'em ups. And the first one is Nathan from Juneau.
Hey, it's Got Star Trek crew. This is Nathan Williams from Juneau, and I was just listening to your most recent episode on Death Wish, and I'm just kind of wondering what gives? I guess if I were going to describe your podcast in 3 words, it would be cool, but rude.
Oh,
See, here's the thing.
come on, man.
Here's the thing.
Come on.
Here's the thing. Even though I am on the side of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV theme song, the lyrics saying, Raphael is cool but rude.
But rude.
Even though I believe that is what the lyrics say, and not cool but crude, as Dan said.
But rude.
I think it'd probably be more accurate to describe our podcast as cool but crude.
Well,
Because I think we take major efforts to not be rude. you
yeah.
know?
I think we try at least. Sometimes we fail.
We don't take much effort to not be crude.
Rude.
right.
I'll give you that.
I've said some things.
Well,
I don't know. I think it's good said it out a lot of it. I have said some things.
He's looked back on his life and he contemplated. I've said some things.
well, Patrick, thank you for that consolation prize. And thank you, Nathan, for voicing your opinion. Although I disagree with that opinion.
I think I was.
It's cool.
I was expecting
It's-
something like he was gonna start saying some
Talk-
shit.
yeah, I thought he was gonna start talking shit too.
You got me.
But just so we're clear, it is cool but crude with a C. Crude.
All right.
But I appreciate your contribution, Nathan. I encourage people to voice their opinion, however wrong it may be.
All right. Okay, good.
But thank you, Nathan.
Next, we have a voicemail from Isaac from Unplanned Trek. And you might recall we had received a voicemail last week in our episode in which we discussed Voyager's Death Wish
Yeah.
from Isaac's son, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Isaac is a host on Unplanned Trek, and Jack is the main host, although, with Isaac, on 2 Minute Trek. So, this is sort of a follow-up from last week's message.
Hey guys, Isaac from the Unplanned Trek podcast from Tasmania. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, we are.
Well, guys, I'm not.
Oh, no.
My son Jack just came home from school and he said, Uncle Dan told me to tell you that I bet you don't even have Double Dragon 2. And guys, I've got to say, it kind of hurt. It's true as well, and it's like I've got no comeback for him. So I just wanted to share that. So thanks for, putting a spotlight on some family issues here. The Tasmanian state election is happening in less than a month. Wondering who you think is going to win.
Okay.
If you've got any insight into that. I've also been practicing something for you guys. Let me know if this is any good. Holograms? Holograms. Anyway, Jesse, Patrick, Uncle Dan, hope you guys have a great week. Rock over London, rock on Chicago. Where would I stay?
Hologram.
Ah, excellent.
Holograms?
Thank you very much, Isaac. That was fantastic. We're sorry to hear about the really terrible things your son was saying to you, but, you know, what are you going to do?
Where would I stay?
The youth of today.
The Tasmanian
That was
lecture
pretty
is,
awesome.
But yes,
I didn't. Jam eater party.
Now that he said,
I think it's going to go to the jam eater party.
now that he said it out loud, I didn't realize how deep that actually cuts, though, about the Double Dragon 2 and so.
Yeah.
That was,
No,
I
that's
feel
fucked
I feel
up.
kind of bad now,
Yeah.
and I'm like a poor influence.
And for those
on
not in the
people.
know, Dan had recounted this tale that he had purchased Double Dragon 2, but a child at school, a peer, simply refused to believe Dan owned the game.
And
you gave his son like ammunition to like get him.
Yeah. And when I asked the guy, I was like, "Why don't you believe me?" His answer was, "I don't know. I just don't." To which I had nothing to say. I don't mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
I totally did have Double Dragon.
You
2.
learned like 3 lessons that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.
3.
What was he asking? Who will win? I missed that.
He was asking about what we thought about the 2024 Tasmanian state elections.
that's right.
They are being held on March 23rd, 2024. We're currently, what is today? It's a month out. Today is February 23rd. When we're recording this, and it's to elect all 35 members, because it's like all 35 members of the House Assembly. Yeah, and you know, as we know, the House Assembly in Tasmania, they use the proportional Hare-Clark system of voting. So you know.
That's what I'm getting here.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yes, exactly. You know the deal, right? Of course, the interesting thing is that this is going to be the first election since 1998 where they're back up to the original 35 House members, because in 1998 they had reduced the House to 25 seats. But a couple years ago, in the expansion of House Assembly Act of 2022, which was assented to in December of 2022, they agreed to return the number of seats to the original level.
The incumbent government is a Liberal government.
Yes.
And they're attempting to win a 4th term against the Labor opposition.
Yeah, and the key thing here to note to our U.S. listeners is that in the rest of the world, liberal means center right, or even sometimes right, because they are liberal when it comes to
sometimes it's kind of old school, right?
Individual freedoms and freedoms for business, you know, for the economy to do what, you know, a laissez-faire approach.
It's classical liberal.
Yeah.
Classical liberalism.
Whereas for those outside of the U.S., who might not know this, in the U.S., liberal is often associated with center-left parties, or even left parties, even though actual left
Just sort of
parties would
moderate
find
parties.
this maddening and are like, don't associate us with those people.
Right. Yeah.
I was not prepared.
But yeah, so it's the liberals. They've been in charge for a while. Labor's, you know, caught up a little bit, right? Like compared to the last election, the Liberal Party has dropped 17% in the polls, and now they're about 4% ahead of the Labor Party. At least the last poll that I could find on YouGov. So yeah, it's still very outside shot, I think, for the Labor to actually come back and win it. But
maybe they can form a coalition with the Jam Eater Party.
Well, I was going to say Tasmania does have some interesting, you know, other parties. They got some of the standard ones, independent, etc. But they also have the that sort of Jackie Lambie Network Party. And we don't know what part the Jackie Lambie Network Party will play in this election. Now, it's important to note that I haven't looked up who Jackie Lambie is or why she has a political party all to herself, but I will just assume that she's maybe some sort of jam production magnate and as such has outsized power in Tasmania. I'm not 100% sure, but what we can say is even though Liberals look like they still hold a little bit of a lead, a recent poll, again also from YouGov, said that 53% of jam eaters actually would like to see a change in government. So
you find it difficult to choose, is that
close. It's going to be close one way or the other.
If you have 3 terms or something.
Yeah, people get tired of stuff.
Swings back.
Yeah. Now, you know, we make these predictions based on very little information and basically no information of the policy positions of the candidates involved. But we do hope those elections go in whatever way you might favor.
Yeah. Especially Isaac.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever he's down with.
If you out there would like to send us a voicemail or an email or something like that, or say whatever, Send us pictures if you like. You can email us at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com.
You're supposed to do that at the end of the show.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I do it. I associate it with the
Somebody's got a
voicemails
case
and
of
emails.
asbestos.
No matter, continue.
Because you can also, if you want to leave a voicemail, you can go to itsgotstartrek.com/record. You can record up to 90 seconds there, or just record on whatever way you like and send us an MP3 or what have you. Whatever suits your fancy.
What are you worried about?
We'd love to hear from you.
You can download the audio on MP3 and tell the whole world how Eminem got VD.
Okay.
Eminem has
Is that
VD.
like Bloodhound Gang's lyrics or something? Where's that line from?
I said, seeing
there
that I
was
said Eminem,
extemporaneous?
I said Eminem in the middle of the line. That would imply that it was from an Eminem song.
Was it from an Eminem song?
Yeah, because
that sounds right.
Well, I said in the lyric how the whole.
Yes, but you could have still improvised it.
You can download the audio on MP3 and
Yeah.
tell the whole world how you gave Eminem VD.
Okay. Now I get it now. Like in retrospect, yes, you're right. It seems quite obvious, but I still allow for the possibility that being not fully familiar with that lyric, it sounded familiar, but I'm not fully familiar with it. So I thought you might have improvised it, but okay, I guess you did.
I should download an audio and.
Now you're gonna look up the lyrics.
I'm trying to. I might have gotten the lyrics slightly wrong, and which would be very embarrassing.
I wouldn't be embarrassed by it.
You wouldn't be.
I'd be embarrassed by other things ahead of that.
I should download her audio on MP3 and show the whole world how you gave Eminem VD. Okay, I just missed the her part.
That was interesting.
And the I part.
Interesting pentameter. Anyway, okay.
If it pleases you.
Let's talk about this silly late episode, late in the series episode of Star Trek: The Original Series. All Our Yesterdays.
I've longed to hear you say it.
All right. So Dan, you were already hinting at some of the. So there's some sort of structural issues to this episode, and I think one of the first ones is that fairly quickly we figure out what's going on here. They present this pretty interesting sci-fi idea of there's danger to your planet, and what are you going to do? Instead of building spaceships, you build time machines and go back into the past of a doomed planet.
Right, and so
that's a fascinating idea.
It is fascinating, and I thought the whole setup where they were in this library with this dude TOS, it felt like I was reading like some kind of pulp, like sci-fi book. Like that whole setup was kind of neat. I
was so looking forward to exploring that brilliant sci-fi idea.
Okay, first of all,
did we get to do that, Dan?
Not really.
Not really.
First of all, I thought it was funny that like these people casually go back in time, but like as soon as they meet someone from another planet,
I'm going back.
Zarabeth freaks out at the concept of she freaks out at the concept of meeting someone from another planet. But time travel is totally normal. Yeah. So I mean, okay,
but they can hear each other from the different time zones.
Now,
if they're in the right spot, they can be like, "Hey, Bones."
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I can let that slide in that like you never know what
very magnanimous of you.
You never know what's going to be normal in a faraway planet.
Yeah.
I just find it unlikely that you discover time travel before you discover like interplanetary travel.
Well, that's part of the interesting concept. Is that right there, which is like, it's funny to think of people not developing space travel before time travel. Mm-hmm. And then the philosophical question.
I don't know. Look at that dude. That guy was weird.
You look at the philosophical question of what exactly does it mean to travel back in time? Like you save yourselves by not getting off your planet. You know your planet's doomed. So going back in time just means you get to keep living, but your planet still eventually gets blown up. Which it's picking a particular philosophical position this culture has in terms of what's important. Mm-hmm. One that I frankly agree with because it's an analog to the destruction of the universe, the inevitable eventual destruction of the universe that people presume is going to happen, right?
And the whole concept of traveling to another planet was so foreign to Mr. A to Z, ATOS.
Yeah, Mr. ATOS.
Yes. And actually,
he's a librarian.
We were talking about the other week.
Librarian jokes.
We were talking the other. Yeah, you're right. The other week about on the TAS episode how everyone was saying Kukulkan, and then Riker Shatner says Kukulkan. Yeah. They have another thing like this, but it's with the same character. ATOS in one part says,
"I'm the real Atos,"
and then another time he says,
"Mr. Atos."
I'm the real Atos, Mr. Atos.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he pronounces his name two different ways. The same character.
Now, was one of them one of the replicants or androids
replicas?
or robots or whatever?
I don't know. That's not made clear. I'm sure you could probably maybe figure it out, but that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yes, I agree. It's just funny how upset you are.
And the concept of interplanetary travel is so foreign to them that Atos was convinced that Kirk was like out of his mind, and he kept trying.
He thought he was a lollygagger.
He thought
all of these people were lollygaggers,
and he was trying to, and he zapped Kirk at that one point
with his little cylinder.
and
Can you play that again?
There was that hilarious scene at the end where like they're wrestling around. First of all, there's some ridiculous fighting. This is the worst fighting of anything.
Yeah, I know, yes.
But,
and
like,
we'll go through that in detail because that's worth discussing these terrible
fights. But there's this hilarious scene at the end where there was like Kirk and him are fighting and the dude zapped him. Then it goes over to I think it was Zarabeth and them or some other scene. And then it comes back and the scene cuts in on Atos pushing like Kirk on this little the dolly thing. It looked like two kids running around down a hallway.
Or like in a grocery store or Home Depot or something.
And it was like mid thing and like he like comically like pushes it like and it starts flying across the floor like he's trying to save Kirk. He's like, I'll get you to safety, you know, because Kirk kept trying to be like, dude, I'm from another planet. I'm from somewhere else. I'm trying to go back to my place. He's like, no, you don't. You're crazy. You're going to kill yourself. I'm going to send you through and save your life. It was so fucking weird. That whole scene was comical and like just the whole imagery of it, like cutting in the middle. It felt like there was a scene they cut out in between because it went from Kirk being zapped to like suddenly he's flying across the floor. But like, why didn't he just believe Kirk? Like when Kirk was like, I can go back to my time. Let me show you. I'm gonna go do it. He's like, no, I'm just gonna throw you back. It's like it didn't make any fucking sense.
You know what else was weird? Look, okay, there's a lot of weird stuff in this episode. We'll get through it. It's gonna take a little while. But one of the other things that was weird was that the guy, when Kirk goes back in time to like the alien Salem, you know?
Whatever it was. What kind of soldiers did those look like?
Those were they were dressed like Three Musketeers.
Yeah, they were just like three French soldiers.
Yeah, French Renaissance soldiers.
They were referring to them as fops, which is like an English term.
Well, then everything else was more pilgrimy and Protestant. Like
the 17th century, like all over the world was like. At least in the European world, they were obsessed with witchcraft and that kind of thing.
So they go back.
And it was happening in all sorts.
So
of
in this planet Sarpedon or whatever, like their past has like a very similar set of like a locale as we did. It just so happens they look like musketeers, just like on Earth.
But my question, right? What I'm saying is weird. Is that prosecutor guy
Kermit Murdoch?
Creepy looking fellow with the.
Yes, I know nothing of this, nothing of these matters. I will not speak to you.
He's got a wiggly.
No matter, continue.
He's got a wiggly face.
Yeah, he did.
He was in Splendor in the Grass.
He was a great actor. The actor was not the problem. In fact, the actor
I thought
he was brilliant.
I actually liked the soldier that acting with the soldiers and the judge. I liked that. I thought that part was
judge prosecutor. I forget what he was, but regardless, the guy who Kirk figures out was also from the future. Now they have this whole interaction, blah blah blah. It's very interesting. The guy is a good actor, and etc. But when you think about it, you're like, well, why the fuck did he pick this timeline? And why has he got this job? Did he go back in time because he gets off on like fucking throwing people in jail and calling them witches and murder? Does he murder women? Is that what I don't even know if the writers intended us to even think about that. Because
woman.
It's like it's a really weird thing for somebody to be like, for the rest of my life I'm gonna live in fucking this miserable timeline.
Well, it seems like they didn't get to choose because between
Atos said they got to choose.
Okay, then why?
Except for that one lady.
Wait,
we haven't gotten to yet.
Now wait. Now okay.
Atos explicitly says you get to each and every person.
You get to choose.
She's like a prisoner.
But here's another part that makes no. This brings me to the next part that makes no sense. This whole fucking Zorkon side plot. Like what the fuck was going on with that?
Yeah.
Why did they
just left you?
Why did they introduce that? It was like, who the fuck is Zorkon? Like she just starts talking about this Zorkon dude, and I'm like, wait, for a while I was like, is that is Atos actually Zorkon? It's like, no, they have nothing to do with each other.
It could have just been from another time.
I think that's the deal. It's probably from 100 years before. When they still had, what was the name of the machine?
The Atavachron.
The Atavachron. So the Atavachron. It would have been cool if they had mentioned that the Atavachron was
Alan Holdsworth album
was like invented. Like, so here's what I want. Here's a line I want.
The Atavachron.
Here's what I wanted for the world building to help pull this all together. I wanted some dialogue or some indication by Mr. Atos, or a poster.
I'm the real Atos.
Or a poster. I don't care.
Mr. Atos.
I wanted somebody to say this whole Nova thing. We've known about this shit for like 400 years.
Yeah. They're waiting till the very last fucking minute.
And we invented the Atavon thing. Like,
this is the Atavachron.
No. But it would all make sense. Like, let's say this. Let's say they've known about the supernova for hundreds of years.
No, actually, it's just a nova. They didn't call it a supernova. They called it just a nova.
It was 1969.
Right.
The branding. The astronomers hadn't gotten the branding down yet until after the moon landing. But the Atavachron,
Beta Niobe.
Here's what I'd like to see. The Nova, they know about it a few hundred years in advance. They invent the Atavachron a few hundred years beforehand. Mm-hmm. So over time, people have been using it to go into the past.
Yeah.
And because Mr. Atos says expressly, he's like, my job is to be here until the end just to wait for people just in case. Mm-hmm. And when Kirk and them show up, he's like, I figured everyone was done, but I guess not. I guess it's good that I waited, right?
Yeah.
He basically says that, right? Mm-hmm. So they give us that information, and that makes a lot more stuff make sense, including Zarabeth, such an alien name, by the way.
My name is Zarabeth.
Yeah, I've never heard.
I've never seen anyone like you, but my name is Zarabeth.
Zarabeth.
But the whole her being made prisoner by the Atavachron and
Atavachron,
I don't know.
Think of chronological chron.
I understand the Latin roots involved,
and think of Atava as something
like
else.
Isn't that a Greek word?
What, cron?
Isn't it crazy when you put Greek roots and Latin roots and opposite side and down and together? I don't even know that that's the case here because I don't actually know enough about the details on that.
So,
but you know what I'm saying? Like, that little bit.
If they just gave a little line about
would have tied things together a little.
Yeah, because it just felt like two separate stories, and I was confused trying to figure. Because, like I said, I thought it was Atos was Zorkon, of course, one of those. That's literally when you hear Conan O'Brien making fun of like sci-fi names.
I'm Zorkon. I'm sending you back in time.
I think I've actually heard him say Zorkon.
I think so too.
Before, but yeah. So
he got it from this episode.
So the Atavachron was used by Zorkon to punish people in the past, but then Atos came along and started to use it for forces of good. And so the judge, he was sent back by
he's a librarian.
The judge was sent back by Atos, but Zarabeth was stranded by Zorkon.
The judge chose when he was going.
Presumably earlier in the contemporary timeline.
So
the 2269.
But we know that Zorkon wasn't responsible for the judge guy.
Yeah, Zorkon's just out of the picture. We don't know what
the judge guy. The judge guy's just on vacation. A lot of other people are. The other people are picking the beach. They're picking some sort of nice time. This guy's like,
I'll take the counter.
I want to murder the women.
All right,
send me to that time.
You know, side note about the whole Nova thing. They said it goes Nova in 3.5 hours. It seems unlikely that they would be that close to a Nova. Because,
why would they be there that close?
Why would they wait? Because they're there to help people, right?
They're not getting anybody out in time for that. Evacuate a whole planet. What the fuck is that?
I would think, if you were to compare,
there's a civilization.
If you were to compare times of a nova to something else more understandable, let's say 3.5 hours for a star to go nova. It's like a tenth of a second before a flying punch hits your face. Right. You know, it's like no time at all.
No,
because a star, years before a star goes nova, that's too close.
Yeah,
3.5 hours. Yeah. You wouldn't want to. You would all be gone by then.
You better be gone.
You better be gone. Although I did like.
They were all gone.
I did like the graphic at the very end, though. Yeah. It kind of looked like an ocean exploding. I liked the little planet.
And to be fair, a supernova is not. I know we're splitting physics between actual physics and made-up physics of warp drive.
Course.
But a nova is not going anywhere near the speed of light when it explodes.
No.
So from that perspective, I guess the Enterprise can be like, yeah, fuck it, we're like half a light year out.
When something goes nova, they have plenty of time. It doesn't just immediately destroy everything. Yeah. It takes a while for something to go nova.
It's got to traverse the space
Traverse.
But like I said, I know this is a remastering and they redid the effects, but I don't know. I really enjoyed watching that planet crumble away.
Yeah, it was cool.
And it looked like I said, it looked like an ocean was coming at it or something. But another thing I didn't understand, like these time portals, okay? Jesse, like you were saying earlier about how they can just talk through these portals, right?
Yeah.
So the time portals, when Kirk got sent to the past, right? You saw him going back and he was all looking for the portal and he couldn't find it. So the assumption is like, oh, it's closed. You can't go back. But no, that's not true. Apparently, you can just waltz back through it anytime you want.
And probably anybody could do that.
And you
including people who weren't sent back in time.
Right,
They're
you
just
think
living
somebody
back
would
in time.
stumble into the wall at some point, and like you'd
It's
think
just the law of statistics.
Also, I would think that Kirk would have been able to find out where he walked out before getting captured, but that's
With that
fine.
kind
whatever.
of like chaos in the space-time continuum, they're kind of lucky they went Nova because they made a mess of things.
I mean, and why do they leave the portals open like that? I don't know, you know. And here's the other thing, another thing that doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay,
and another thing.
So when you got to prepare people,
you got to prepare.
You've got to prepare people. You've got to prepare people.
Otherwise, they die.
Except
for Spock, apparently.
I was not prepared. Wait, I haven't prepared you. You must be prepared.
So
be prepared.
So if you go back in time and don't prepare yourself, you have like a few hours before you die, right? Yeah. But if you are prepared and go back in time and you go back to the future, you get
Back to the Future.
Yeah, I knew that. I know.
What's funny is he thought Back to the Future, and my mind was stuck on like I was thinking of like prepared horseradish. You know, like you get a little jar of horseradish that's already ground up.
I was thinking of Preparation H.
I was. So here's the problem with like
Prepared
me.
H.
Here's the problem with me trying to explain this. I could not think of a better phrase to use than "Back to the Future," but I can't say that phrase because it just disrupts the conversation.
We got to take a break, but how about we make you make an attempt?
Bunch of jammies.
You make an attempt.
Stop his mouth and they'll quiet.
You make an attempt to say something when we get back, which will be in just a moment. Be right back.
Bunch of jam eaters.
All right, we're back. We're back from the break.
Okay.
I should be able to resolve this problem logically.
Excellent. But I can't because you can't. Okay, so as I was saying, if you go back in time and don't prepare yourself, you only have a few hours before you die. But if you prepare yourself, go back in time, and then go back to the future again, you die immediately. Okay, so why is it if you don't prepare yourself and go back in time, you have a few hours to die, but if you do, so if you go in the past and aren't prepared for the past, you have a few hours till you die. But if you go back to the future and don't prepare, you die instantly. Why isn't it just a few hours for both or instantly for both? You know what I'm saying?
Dan, what you've done is you've identified and articulated a problem with this episode.
And
it's an inconsistency.
And if you instantly die by going
time travel
if
paradox.
you instantly die by going back to the future, why do they leave the portal open why do they even give you the option? Like the portal's open all the time.
Maybe that's so
but it's hard to find.
Yeah, maybe
and they know they're not gonna. They know they can't do it, so they don't do it.
No, but I'm saying, but look,
maybe it's to let you kill yourself if you're not digging the time you picked.
I'm sure there's easier ways to do that.
I don't know, man.
Well, maybe not easier. It's probably pretty simple.
Yeah, it depends which time period you're in.
It doesn't make sense to keep this portal open, especially if going back through it means instant death. And instant death for anyone who walks through it. They just have a death door that's just sitting there open all the time. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Now, but here's what makes it make even less sense. Even less.
Fucking Zorkon. What the fuck? No. Why did they even introduce that part? It's just so they can have a reason to have Zarabeth be lonely and miserable, and also be able to. It's how they not consolidated. How they what's it called? Reconciled. Dan. The fact that they had Zarabeth.
Yeah, but they didn't have to name some ridiculous name. They could have said
that's
something.
They
could have done it differently.
Well, that's wait. That's how they reconciled being able to have Zarabeth be in a miserable situation while also simultaneously having the judge be in a situation that he chose. It's like, why is he in a decent situation but she's in a shit situation? Okay. It's because of Zorkon and ATOS.
Dan, you veered wildly off course of a point that you had made that I was going to try to support with additional evidence. And that additional evidence is this. First, let me remind folks of what the point was. Dan was pointing out that it was a bit silly to leave these portals open. To leave the portals open since anyone who went through the portal, were they to return, at least according to the propaganda presented during this episode, they would die instantly. Right? I agree. That's a problem. An additional problem is, well, what about the regular people from that time who, as we suggested, might stumble through it by accident? They haven't been prepared either.
Yeah, so they'll die.
No, but they won't die instantly because from what we've seen so far is somebody who goes through the portal unprepared apparently has got at least a few hours before they die. Because McCoy, Spock, Kirk, none of them died instantly.
Yeah, see, okay, I see what you're saying, but
I think if you've only gone through once, you're good for a few hours. When it's going through a second time, then you're like incompatible.
McCoy and Spock were there a bit.
See,
they were there a long time.
That's an interesting.
They got all frosty and shit.
That's an interesting approach you took on that one, Patrick. Because the way I saw it if you go into the past, you have a few hours, but if you go into the future, you die instantly. Mine is which direction of time.
I mean, and that's a perfectly reasonable set. Given the information provided to us, your scenario is perfectly plausible.
Right. And then, like I said, I just figured, like I explained before about the Zorkon, I just figured out why they had to have Zorkon, which is, like I said, because the audience would wonder, why is Zarabeth put in a place against her will that's all shitty, and why is the judge in a place that he wants to be? And the only way they can reconcile that is by making it so that, well, Zarabeth was put in there by an evil emperor, and then the judge was put there by a nice guy TOS or whatever. But that's the only reason I can think.
Nice guy TOS.
They could have thought of something better than fucking Zorkon to do this shit, though.
Zorkon.
I do like how animated you've gotten over this, specifically over the Zorkon situation.
And Jesse, the frosty thing.
Did you like Spock's ears being all frostbit?
It looked like
his ears were all frostbit.
It looked like they used that cheap like Halloween hairspray. Have you ever seen that? Like as a kid, they sprayed it on his head. That's what that looked like.
Yeah, and probably asbestos.
And
I mean, quite seriously.
Well, what's that paint they used on the Tin Man that apparently made him sick for the rest of his life? And
I think
Wizard of Oz. It was something different, but that was like just straight up like gasoline they dumped on his head or something. I don't know. But I would.
James Bond movie Goldfinger, like one of the female actors was there was some kind of gold paint situation and it was dangerous. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's a good anecdote.
I was trying to not say like chicks. The chick in that movie, Bond girl.
You know the dame,
the broad.
I would also think that if they were in. Like Spock and Bones were in the wintry wonderland, they probably would have been frostbitten and dead by the amount of time they were out there. Like you would probably be dead the fuck away.
It's hard to say.
There's Starfleet. Starfleet science officer.
And Spock, of course, is Vulcan, which
means he can stand it better.
Well, yes, even though he comes from a desert planet, so you'd presume somebody from a desert planet who's adapted to desert life would be more susceptible. But they're going to say like he's got hot blood. He's an alien. He's got hot blood, which I think is racist. I do. I think that's racist to think that Spock has hot blood.
Hot blood. Hot blood. Gonna check it and see.
What else are they implying?
I got it outside and I really have to pee.
Are you singing some like early Weird Al, like 1984 Weird Al?
Another one rides the bus. The Vulcans, though, I think the general idea of those Vulcans have a high constitution. They roll like 10s on their constitution. Yeah. But like you're right, though, the fact that they grow up on a hot planet would imply that they would be fucking...
You'd think. One would think.
I thought it was real quick side about Spock. Do you notice?
It's better be quick
because the way he pronounces
really quick
when he says like sector or sensor.
Signs are sacred life forms.
He said life forms.
Life forms.
Life forms.
Yeah. Life forms.
A lot of the audio in this episode is like sort of muddy and weird. I noticed that as well. There's clearly the budget has been stripped by the time they're filming this episode. First of all,
sabotage.
Did you notice there's not a single scene on the Enterprise?
Yeah, they're talking.
Oh yeah, they talk to Scotty.
They talk to Scotty,
right?
But you don't see Scotty.
You usually do at least see them.
Scotty.
There's no Uhura. There's no Chekhov. There's no Sulu.
There's no Farrell.
There's just the three main people, and then you hear Scotty's voice. You got a couple of guest actors. Mm-hmm. You've got a cave set.
Cave set, yeah, good classic cave set.
It was a good cave set. I will give them credit.
It was a good cave set. I don't know how it stayed so warm in there though, because they had
because of geothermal activity, buddy.
Yeah,
but then why
it was all red up?
They had a few
geothermal activity.
They had a few candles. They had a few candles throughout.
It's going to be the hot new. It's going to be the hot new movie series that we're going to start. We're going to start it up. It's going to be the hot new event movie series.
Geothermal fiction.
Geothermal activity.
Where did they get those candles from? There were candles in there.
From wax, rendered from the
real.
From the animal fat.
Paraffin.
Because they have a weird ecology that where animals, only carnivores exist, which doesn't actually make any sense.
This is animal flesh. I have eaten animal flesh, and I've enjoyed it.
I wanted to know what kind of animal flesh that was.
Do you have Spock?
Saber tooth?
I know what it was. It was just mushy grossness because it looked so unappetizing.
Yeah. Do you think? What do you think that actually was like in like the prop they used? Do you think that was actual meat of some kind?
No, I don't.
Well, he enjoyed it.
Well, yes, I know he enjoyed it because it's a TV show. I think it was something that would be stable under the hot lights on the studio for multiple hours a day.
I brought this up before. You notice how like pizza and TV and movies always look so fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it never looks nice.
And in the 1989 or 90 version of Teenage Mutant,
it's 1990 is when it came out.
It's 1990. I might have said 89 earlier. The 1990 version. And I've said this also before, and I think at least one of you has agreed with me that the pizza at the beginning of that, where they're like in the sewer and they shoot the pizza in the air and one lands on Splinter's head. That's like some of the best, most appetizing looking movie pizza I've ever seen.
But isn't it also like a commercial for Domino's or something?
Well,
like a Domino's delivery.
Yeah, but then the Domino's guy, he's late. The delivery guy's late.
Yeah.
Oh, right. You're right.
Like,
it's still.
Yeah.
But
there's no such thing as bad publicity.
But it was Pizza Hut who released the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Coming Out of Our Shells tour.
Yeah,
album.
and it's also Pizza Hut that had the commercial on the VHS tape before the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But then it's Domino's
with the whole baseball off in the distance business.
And in the TMNT band, the Coming Out of Our Shells tour, I think it was Mikey who played bass. Anyways, or was it Donnie? I don't know, but it was.
I just remember that was an upsetting era.
It was
an upsetting business.
It was a one-string bass. If you look closely, it was a one-string bass.
They only got 3 fingers.
Yeah, well, they could have had 2 strings.
Well, all sorts of things could have happened.
Were you looking for this line?
How much time before the sun blows up?
No, but that's a good one. I was looking for a wilderness of Arctic characteristics.
Oh no, I don't have that one. Sorry,
when Spock is describing where they are, and I want to say, the wintry effects I thought were great. The snow and the wind.
It looked cold.
Again, it's all asbestos. We're quite certain that that's asbestos that they were blowing around in their face, but it looked snowy. It looked really good.
Yeah, well.
Most
of those people are dead now.
Well, that's true.
Except for Shatner and the actor that plays Zarabeth. I believe she's still alive.
Oh, is she? Yeah, that was Marietta Hartley, I think.
Yeah, she's still around.
Marietta Hartley.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else got asbestos.
They got asbestos.
So they had those TV discs that told them where they were going.
Yeah.
It was funny because the Old West one was like that kind of brown and red color that you see in Old West movies.
Like you see from the Desilu library stock footage.
So that ATOS was being like unnecessarily mysterious. Maybe it's just because he assumed they fucking knew what it is, but that's quite another. Oh yeah, because they didn't assume that nobody was from another planet. Because like Kirk was like, where'd they go? And ATOS was like, wherever they wanted to go, of course. Right. It's strictly up to the individual's choice. It's like
it was frustrating.
It's like he didn't narrow it down, and then
it's like I'm asking you a question, motherfucker. Where did everybody go?
Yeah, and he goes, and then he just walks up. He's like, "Have you made your selection?" And Spock's like,
"Oh, you haven't decided."
He's like, "What is it that I'm expected to select?" And ATOS is like, "I'm sure I was clear. The period in which you're interested, that's not clear at all." And he says, "This is a fascinating machine. What is it?" And ATOS is like, "Oh, it's the Atavachron. Like nothing about this is so far fucking clear at all." Like, he asks like how it works, and then ATOS is like, no, you mustn't touch this, you know. And then he talks about how he's like, when you're ready, I'll prepare you for selection, and it's like selection of what, like wherever they want to go. What does that fucking mean?
It sounds like in going to Carousel in Logan's Run. Yeah, you don't want to be selected for Carousel.
Like an evil Dr. Seuss
no spoilers, but you don't want to go. You don't want to go to Carousel.
And he says
that much.
He says, like he said it's wherever you want to go, but obviously it's not wherever you want to go.
Well, obviously,
it's wherever in time you want to go within the range of that planet. You can't go like to outer space, so it's not wherever, so that's obviously not clear. So like he's just making a lot of assumptions about what they know, and I think they've proven to this point that they don't know what he's talking about, but ATOS insists on being like just completely like
I'm gonna go 5 minutes before now and kick you in the balls.
like totally talking in this obfuscated language.
Look, he knows what he's talking about, but I think what you said earlier is the truth, which is he's presuming a certain knowledge that these people have because he's assuming that they are not aliens, that they are just stragglers, lollygaggers,
Yeah, I guess.
Layabouts who've only now rolled up,
but
just as about the sun's about to go nova.
I feel like at first I would buy that, but after they kept being like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" Eventually, he would have to catch on and be like, "Oh, these guys don't know what's going on."
Well, a couple of them are robots too. Or whatever replica.
So we'll have to make a lot of like headcanon about like what the replicas know. Like first of all, that one.
I mean, we don't have to.
For the fact that one says
I'm the real Atos,
and the other says
Mr. Atos.
Like the fact that they say two different fucking names, and then like Kirk hears a scream and runs off. He runs off. He's like, "Oh, I didn't prepare you." It's like, prepare me for what? Like
prepare ship for ludicrous speed.
So
anyway, he just hears like some chick screaming, and then he goes off to help her. Like.
Yeah.
I'll save you. I'm Kirk, of course.
I thought the effects were cool. Like I liked how they were kind of cheesy, but they were awesome. Like the
flashy light
effects.
stuff. It was effective.
And then when he was like
60s stuff.
And when he found the portal back home in the wall, like it all went ding, and like it like all jerked around. It was like all stroby. It was weird. So the effects were cool. I liked those henchmen guys.
Tell me more about the henchmen guys that you like.
I like the henchmen guys.
You mean the fops? You like the fops?
Away, spirit! There's the mort. There's the mort's henchman. You'd call it Bones.
Bones.
Those I liked their lines. I liked how they constructed their lines.
Tell me more about why you like them.
Well, it's just because
this is not a trick question. I'm honestly curious.
No, I like that
Was it the costumes?
I like the language that they used.
The language
that they and the guy.
Did you like their fighting style?
No, the fighting was. I mean, the sword fight was fine, but of course Kirk knows how to fence for some reason.
My favorite part about the sword fight is how they sort of like weakly fight for like a few seconds, and then at one point the fop or the coxcomb simply drops his sword and sort of shrieks and runs away.
Well, there was
for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, and I think they were fighting with rapiers because I think rapiers are the ones that have points and not because Kirk was slapping him on the butt. If he's able to slap him on the butt, that wouldn't be a saber, that would be a rapier, right? Yeah. So the fighting was terrible. So like the soldier all swung at him. He like swung with his left hand, and Kirk like took his right hand and did some kind of weak, stumbly double chop thing that looked like he didn't quite know what he was doing. And then the scene where the jailer was giving Kirk the water.
Oh, like, that's my favorite part. The whole like
Kirk
the escape scene.
How Kirk like awkwardly
super awkwardly
baits him into like bringing the thing closer. You're just like, what's going on here? And then when he gets him, he gets in this weak like Aikido hold or something
because he didn't want to hurt the stuntman. This was one of those times where it was very clear that Shatner and the stuntman, that Shatner was being very careful because he was actually pulling the stuntman's arm through bars. There would be leverage there. You could dislocate a shoulder, or perhaps even worse.
But it was also
the net effect is that it looks really silly.
It looked really shitty. And then
then he gets the keys, and he's all having an awkward time, like reaching around.
Well, he's just like casually holding the guy in place by his wrist there. And my favorite though is when Kirk starts beating up the old man. Like the
Mr. Atos, yeah.
He does another Aikido move on Atos. He does some kind of weird arm thing, and the guy kind of stumbled. The same thing he did on the soldier. He did the same move as he did on the jailer, where he like twisted his arm around,
and then he's just like holding him there for a little while.
Yeah. Then the second replica guy, he just kind of gave him a weak hug from the front, which caused the dude to like pass out and fall on the ground.
The classic front hug.
Yeah, the front hug, and he didn't do it hard. He just kind of grabbed him around the torso lightly. And then he put Atos in the real Atos in the half Nelson. I remember we were talking about, what was the episode where, Jesse, you were saying the fights were ridiculous? It was when they went to that planet and they were having all those fight scenes. It was, remember Kirk had, they had like multiple people fight scenes. We did this episode of TOS.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
I can't remember what fucking episode that was that we did, but it was a TOS episode where they had like those bunch of crazy different weapons, like hand to hand.
Crazy.
I think they even played that Spock Kirk fight music where it's like or at least they had the.
You're talking about the Game Stars of Triskelion.
Yeah, the Game Stars of Treskelon.
Yes, the Game Stars of Treskelon.
Yeah, so that one, those fights were ridiculous.
We discussed that in episode 214.
I at least thought those
Star Trek podcast.
Those were ridiculous fight scenes, but I at least found them enjoyable. I was like, it was interesting to watch that time period and what they were doing, and just the production of it was interesting.
It was better.
These fights weren't even interesting. They were just they were hilarious.
They were confusing.
Yes.
And sad.
Yes,
this is the episode that got it canceled like finally.
It was almost as if the fight scenes we saw in film were the initial rehearsals. But they were like, you know what? Just pop on some costumes. We do not have time to work this all out. Kirk just do the same thing multiple times in this episode. Yeah. Oh, and
Kirk didn't
you need a new move? Front hug that old man.
Yeah, front hug him. He didn't even get to do like a Kirk jump front kick like he usually does.
Or there was no real double fist action.
No double fist, no hip toss.
Double fist haymaker or whatever they call it.
In the rest
can you explain to me, Dan, the difference between a full Nelson and a half Nelson in an audio friendly format?
Yeah, half Nelson is
because you're a wrestler.
A full Nelson is just a half Nelson with both arms. So a half Nelson, half Nelson.
You're getting to the meat of it.
You take.
Where you explain the bit that actually would explain the.
So
thing.
if you were to do a half Nelson with your right arm, you take your right arm, put it underneath the other person's right arm, and then weave your hand back. So it's over the back of the neck. So the arm is under their arm, but the hand is behind the neck. Right, and the full Nelson, you do the same thing on the other side, both. and you link your fingers together. So and the half Nelson.
What is the origin of that term?
I don't know. Oh. That's a good question. I would like to know that. I would like to know that. But the half Nelson is legal in wrestling. A full Nelson is not legal in wrestling because when you grip your hand, there's a danger of like fucking their neck up and cranking their shit bad. Totally. So he was doing a half Nelson for sure.
And you were a wrestler at one point.
Yeah, in high school.
That was
a long time ago.
The distant past.
Once a wrestler, always a wrestler.
Wrestler.
Isn't that the code of the wrestler?
One of those tight wrestler outfits.
Yeah, the singlets.
One of them tight singlets.
Yeah, and it's sexy. And sexy singlets.
Yeah. You hulked out. You went to Hulkamania.
Yeah, I did. I totally hulked out. Yeah, speaking of the double fist punch, what they call that in pro wrestling is they call it the double axe handle. It's what they call the double fist pump.
Double axe handle.
And he didn't even give a hip toss or anything. Kirk's always given someone a hip toss, but he didn't even do that. This is the worst fighting.
It was the worst fighting, and it was kind of funny. I know we haven't gotten to the Spock McCoy yet.
Oh yeah,
we will. We'll get there in a moment. But when you look at this episode, on the one hand, you've got Kirk who's fighting robots and witch hunters and old men, and he's traveling through time. And meanwhile, Spock is like hitting on some gal in a cave, and McCoy's like sitting in the corner just jerking off. And they're all just like, like that's the bulk of the episode is that.
That's all there is in the world is Snow and that girl.
Kirk is like huffing and puffing. He's like I had to roll off a cart.
Yeah, right.
He's like, I almost got time travel for a second fucking time. What'd you do? It's like, hanging out with this lady over here.
Well, McCoy from the start is like, Zarabeth, you're a beautiful cook. Have you ever been told that? And she's like, no. And he's like,
she was like, not recently.
Yeah. He says,
she's been alone forever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because the psychological implications are this woman has been alone forever.
Not really, not recently.
And at the end of the episode, not only do we know she's alone again, we know with certainty she is alone forever. No more time travelers coming through.
No, and not at all crazy.
Yes, exactly.
And then McCoy sort of totally blocks Spock. He goes, well, you'll find that Spock is quite delinquent in those matters. Like McCoy is pulling a dick move right there.
Wow,
he's a dick, dude.
I mean, but was it?
I mean, whether or not Spock was trying, obviously McCoy wasn't assuming that Spock was trying to hit on her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's still like that's using somebody to sort of further your own sort of
that's what position.
But
that's what Zarabeth was doing.
And then he goes. You'll notice a distinct difference in our approach. Yeah. Like it's like McCoy's totally like being a sleazeball.
Well, this is what I was trying to ask you, because at one point it sounded to me, and I really apologize if I'm misinterpreting this, but it sounded to me like Zarabeth was hinting that she wanted to fuck around with McCoy as well, because she was all like offering McCoy some food, and then at a certain point she's like, "Oh, do you want to try some of the other delicacies this planet has available?" And McCoy's all like, "I don't know if I'm quite well enough for that yet." And she's like, "We'll get well soon." It was a charged.
Right.
The way they played it was weirdly flirtatious and charged.
Because what else is that planet?
Almost like they were purposefully setting up a competition between a romantic competition between McCoy and Spock,
But, I mean,
which they didn't entirely
which
fulfill.
went nowhere.
So yeah, I mean, I got the impression though with Spock, like I felt a spark between her and Spock though too.
Yeah.
So maybe she was trying to get them both. Well,
Yes, because she's been alone forever, and then she's like, now I got two fellas.
Well-
I better make nice with both of them.
well, this exchange is like,
I mean, she wants companionship. I can understand that.
and this exchange shows the competition between McCoy and Spock. McCoy goes, "I never thought I'd hear it, but I understand. You want to stay here. As a matter of fact, you're highly motivated to stay in this forsaken waste." To which Spock says, "The prospect appeared quite attractive to you a moment ago." Basically, Spock being like, "I see you moving in on this."
Yeah.
And so Spock was being really jealous. Okay, here's another thing that makes no fucking sense.
I was wondering when you'd get to this.
Here's another fucking...
I'm just guessing. I'm guessing at what you're going to be talking about.
You're just, this whole,
5,000 years before you were born.
that whole fucking thing
Yeah,
about...
you mean the suddenly they're just reverting back to like previous states of really philosophical perspective,
Right, yeah.
Spiritual.
You're reverting to your ancestors.
I guess
5,000 years before you were born.
Like, that made no fucking sense at all.
Because McCoy is a fundamentalist Christian who thinks that the Earth is like the universe is 5,000 years old, so he's like, that's real old.
Like, but if you're traveling, okay, first of all, do we have some kind of shared consciousness that is McCoy implying that we have a shared consciousness?
McCoy is talking about the fact that Vulcans used to be
Yes, I know.
emotional, violent.
Right, I know that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just going through the motions here. That's what he's implying.
Right.
And then he's saying that was 5,000 years ago. We're 5,000 years ago.
Right.
In a relativistic universe.
Yeah.
So that part doesn't make sense. 5,000 years does not make any sense in this context.
No.
But there's that. And then it's like, oh, and for some reason, like, that means your genes are reverting to what they were 5,000 years ago.
That's exactly. And so that's why I was saying, like, is he making
It's
some
questionable.
That's what he's clearly implying.
Yeah, of course, that's what he's clearly implying. And so
Even though it's not a gene thing.
What I'm trying to say is that, like, I'm trying to figure out his logic behind that. Is he saying that there's some kind of shared consciousness where if we're in the same time period
I don't know.
as are people of the same species, we share the same level of evolution?
You know
as
what,
they do?
Dan?
Like,
It's crazy.
It's fucking nuts.
crazy.
And yeah, because like,
it's also crazy because we know that the Vulcan transition from emotional.
it was a
and
social
violent,
change.
Yes, exactly. It was a social, spiritual, essentially religious shift in their culture.
And not that this would have made a difference, but what further makes this
I like talking about Vulcan ecclesiastic topics.
What further causes this to make less sense is because
I enjoyed that grammatical construction. I bet you couldn't repeat it.
What further causes this to make less sense?
Okay, all right, very, very cool.
Remember
sir.
this part?
Very cool.
I was not prepared.
He was not prepared.
He was not prepared.
So, okay, the only way I could
the song from The Lion.
The only way I could possibly think that this might make some like connection of sense, but still not make sense, is if they were prepared for that time period. Like, okay, first of all, why do they have to be prepared to be in different time periods? We don't know. But like,
what's involved in this preparation?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the fact is maybe this might,
you down
maybe in some kind of bizarro sci-fi universe, it could make sense if they were prepared, their cell structure was prepared for that time period, right?
Cell structure.
Then you could try to make an argument for that, but they weren't prepared. So Spock was,
agreed.
cells weren't adjusted to be 5,000 years ago. Spock's cell structure was still in the future present.
Yes.
So they didn't even
the future present.
They didn't.
Exactly.
They didn't even change their cell structure to live 5,000 years
bad
ago.
writing.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
How they didn't. How like.
I understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
I do know what you are saying.
They didn't even adjust their cell structure. So, like, what possible reason could they?
What the fuck?
What possible reason could Spock have for behaving like his brethren, his Vulcan brethren from 5,000 years ago, if his cell structure is that of the future? Not that would have made a difference anyway. You know.
Here's the thing. Again, this is an example. This is an example of something that they could have kept all this in and just added a little tiny thing to make a little bit more sense, which would be if they switched it up so the gag was that McCoy examines Spock, and turns out McCoy is like, you know what, Spock? Your cells haven't fucking changed.
Oh, yeah, right.
That was just you using it as an excuse.
Yeah.
That's your human side came out.
It's been you all along.
It was you. And that would have been a funny gag.
Yeah.
And it retroactively would have made more sense in the context of what the episode had provided.
Spock's a dirty boy.
Bump. Exactly. That should be the ending.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about time to take another break.
It's about time.
So we will take that break, and when we return from the break,
we
will conclude our discussion.
We will conclude.
Jesse's firmly in hype man mode
I'm
tonight.
making a musical.
You are beautiful.
We'll finish up this fucking podcast. We'll be right back. All right, hello everyone. We have returned from the break.
We have returned from a break.
We have returned.
Agreed.
From the break.
Oh, I want to play something real quick for
All right.
you. Okay.
I like playtime.
She would even murder me. She would even murder me.
Murder.
She would even murder me.
Agreed.
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 I don't like that.
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 Agreed.
I was not prepared. I was not prepared. I was not prepared. I was not prepared. I don't like that.
Agreed.
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 She would even murder me.
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 Agreed.
I don't know who's saying
Agreed.
I was not prepared.
Who's saying
Agreed.
I was not prepared.
Agreed.
I was not prepared. I don't like that. I don't like that. I was not prepared. I was not prepared.
Agreed.
That was my beat of the day.
Beat of the day. Beat the day.
Beat the day.
The jailer.
Absolutely.
The jailer seemed like kind of an okay guy. I mean, we don't really know this character very well. You know, the fops, I don't know.
That actor was a stuntman, and he attempted to break the land speed record by trying to get to the break the sound barrier.
Whoa.
With like a
rocket car?
Rocket car.
Did he die?
No, he didn't die. He is still alive now.
Did he break the record?
No, he didn't.
Oh, that's
he
too
just tried a couple of times and it didn't work.
Well,
how did you find that? Like, what made you think to find that out?
I was reading Wikipedia.
Well, I was just wondering how you thought to look up that guy in particular.
Well, I was looking up the episode and it lists like the guest people, and then there, usually the actors have links, and you read about what the other stuff they did.
You know who else has links? The Legend of Zelda.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. That's fucking wild.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because this guy, I don't know if it was the actor or what, but he just sort of came off as like, he's just sort of like walking around. He's like, hey, here's your bucket of soup. Stick out your cup.
Your bucket of soup.
Or whatever, with gruel, whatever.
And you'd call it bones.
And then, look, I'm not blaming Kirk. Kirk had to do what he had to do to escape.
Give me your cup.
Kind of like fucked that guy up. He embarrassed him. And then after he got out, he all like did that tomahawk chop thing. He did that arm thing that you mentioned before, Dan, because he also did it to one of the coxcombs, where he just goes like whack, and the guy like just falls down. Collapsed.
Yeah, right.
I was like, all right.
Yeah, it was a really weak chop. It almost looked like he stumbled the first time because it looked like he did a double chop, but it looked like the first one he kind of fucked up and then did it. Yeah, it was
a straight all that fight stuff was bizarre. Okay, more about the whole Zara business, right? So Zara Beth, right? So Zara Beth, she's got these guys, they show up, she's helping them out, she's got a nice place to hang out, seems like a pretty cool deal. She likes sci-fi. Did you catch that little like implication? Because Spock is all saying like, we're from another world, and she's like, she's like, I love reading stories about that type of thing. But then wait a second, those stories are bullshit. She didn't call it sci-fi, but she was talking about digging sci-fi.
This isn't real.
Yeah, so I liked the setup of her being she's a woman living in an ice age cave. Who's like super into sci-fi,
And then when she was super into it, and then she immediately, like, as she started realizing what it meant, she's like,
I'm going back.
And then Spock has to do the whole like 1960s grip the lady, grip the lady move.
Right.
I am substantial.
Yeah. That's what he says. That's a nice self-affirmation, right? You just look in the mirror.
Yeah.
I am substantial.
You know, just say that to yourself.
You should do that in the morning when you wake up.
Yeah, I am substantial, Jesse.
I matter.
I matter, right.
Yeah. Well,
You're a bully fine cool for all of that.
one question I had.
What a handsome dish you served at my ooh.
Wait, listen to the end of this. Listen to the very end of this.
What a handsome dish you served at my ooh.
Yeah,
What
see, she says coxcomb.
Who?
I think she says coxcomb there.
I remember I was watching this and Natalie was like, what does she say?
Yeah, wait, is it coxcomb at the end? It sounds
I
like
think she says coxcomb.
Wait, I'll
at
play
the
one
end.
more time.
What a handsome dish you served at my ooh.
But she ends it with
Oh,
ooh.
yeah, well, you
She
know,
goes,
it's a little weird. Yeah.
It's a little weird.
I don't know. Did you have the part where she says "Where's library"?
No, I only grabbed a few of she was
Come on, Dan.
He's a witch.
She's like
I'm game, love.
there's that.
Yeah. Gross.
He's a witch.
Right, there's that. Then there's
Witch. Witch. Witch.
Yes, yes, yes.
Run.
The line is on it.
I hunger.
Chief O'Brien?
I am Sinistar.
Witch. Witch.
I am Sinistar.
It's your cousin, Marvin Chomsky.
Run.
do you everyone remember that game Sinistar? Jesse, you remember Sinistar.
I sure do.
That game's fucking fucked
I
up.
know, it's so scary.
It's made in the 80s. It was the scariest game made in the 80s.
Sinistar just pops out.
He just pops out from off the screen and starts chasing you around,
you see him
taunting
coming,
you.
and then he chases you, and you can't stop it. And then eventually he just starts going like, rah! And you're like, oh no. And then he kills you. It's game over.
I am Sinistar. I hunger.
I hunger, mortal.
I don't remember that game.
We're dangerous.
Maybe I'll have to.
There
look it
was
up.
a version of it for Super Nintendo on it was like a mix of different classic
probably
arcade games.
an emulator version.
Yeah.
Well, there's
I can emulate it.
Well, this was before
through an emulator.
It was before that.
It was before emulators were common, but often maybe they just used emulators to make those back then. I don't know how they reproduced it. It was probably through emulators, but it was common to have on
emulation is a form of reproduction.
Yes, but I mean, I'm talking about
For the AI.
Yes, I'm talking about the emulation as we know it in the current form. I don't know how they did it back then.
Virtual computers.
I'm not smart. I don't know enough about it how they did that back then. But I'm talking about
which is a profound statement because you're the smartest one here.
Oh, yeah. You guys. That's not true.
I mean, as far as computer science,
as far as knowing about emulated video games, I've spent more time reading about it, which it doesn't mean I'm any smarter. It just means I've dedicated more of my life to something that I don't know.
Yeah, what if you read the wrong things?
I could have read the wrong things.
Sometimes we read the wrong things.
Anyways, back with Super Nintendo and the first PlayStation, all those, it was common to have all these arcade collections, and they have those again.
Yeah,
they have those now too, but on the PC, the emulators where you download the ROMs and you play the ROMs on the emulators and things. I'm wondering if it's the same. It's probably the same kind of technology they use. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Well, I mean, it's the long and the short of it is.
But Sinistar was the only cool game on that collection. From
there was
what I remember.
Gauntlet. Wasn't Gauntlet on there?
Was it on there?
Gauntlet was good. I know
yeah.
Gauntlet.
Gauntlet is definitely cool.
Welcome. Yes. No, wait, that didn't sound right. Welcome. I can't even do it now.
Because we
welcome.
Wait, are you are you Zombo coming it up? That's what it sounds like.
This is
Welcome to Zombo.
Well, we played some Gauntlet, but there was a PlayStation version of Gauntlet, and you could play the full floor player. Excuse me.
Don't shoot the food.
Yeah.
Elf shot the food.
Wizard shot the food.
Wizard shot the food. Warrior needs food badly. Welcome.
You took all the keys.
Yeah. Ba-ding.
Okay.
Star
Trek
that game. You took all the damn keys.
Zarabeth.
Not Sarabeth.
Not Sarabeth, which
what?
is
I've never heard that name before.
Common
Get this
name.
through your head.
Zarabeth, because she's an alien on an alien world.
Mm-hmm. We're still talking about Zarabeth here?
Well, yes, because I had a question that you may have an answer to, may not have an answer to. The question is what do you think is the degree of moral crime committed by Zarabeth in her, at least to some degree?
It's got to be pretty bad.
Encouraging Spock and McCoy to become permanently trapped with her? Given her situation where
she would lie.
Well, are you saying like what did she do to get imprisoned in the ice age?
No, I'm wondering like this is a story where this is a story about a lovely lady who was living in a very cold cave.
She would even murder me.
Well, the cave was nice.
You're right. The cave was right. Scratch that theme song.
Okay,
but you know what I'm saying?
So here's the thing.
Like how fucked up is what she did?
Okay, I think it is not as fucked up as what McCoy was trying to make it out to be, because McCoy was like...
Are you trying to kill me, Spock?
Sorry, that was the wrong one.
She would lie. She would cheat.
I think McCoy was a little bit over the top with that, because as far as she knew, they were prepared.
Yeah.
She didn't know they weren't... As far as she knew, they were prepared, meaning that they couldn't return back to the present.
Mm-hmm.
She had no reason to believe that they were not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, she was probably motivated to keep them back there, but as far as the evidence of what it shows us, it doesn't show her being really deceitful, and that's only based on the fact that we can only assume that she assumed that they were prepared, and that's the only reason that there would be a moral question for what she was doing.
Well, and the other layer in all of this is they added that preparation bit in part to drive some of the drama, to give it an extra timeline. Or what do you, an extra deadline?
Yeah.
The problem is it was sort of a hat in a hat because you already had the deadline of the Nova.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like it wasn't entirely necessarily to have the additional deadline of you're going to get all fucking weird.
But the Nova thing always brings up that question with time travel that's never properly answered. Whereas if you're 500 years in the past and in your present, a Nova's going to happen in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like let's say in 3 hours from now,
okay.
The Nova's going to happen.
All right.
I travel to 500 years.
Bossa
I travel
Nova?
Okay. Let me reword this.
Nova?
Let me reword this. Let's say from now there's in 3 hours from now there's going to be a supernova. I travel back.
You're making me nervous, man.
I travel back in time 24 hours. Does that mean that now I have 27 hours before the supernova, or does the present timeline? Because if you take Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure logic, the present timeline still continues forward as normal. You can't just simply travel 3 hours before the nova. So meaning, even though in your another timeline, your 3 hours still equals 3 hours in the present timeline. So by that logic,
I hate temporal mechanics.
But by that logic, then no, they'd have all the time in the world. But by that logic, they wouldn't have it. By the Bill and Ted's logic, they would only have 3.5 hours. But by Back to the Future logic or many other logics, they would have all
or on Her Majesty's Secret Service logic, where it ends with the "We have all the time in the world" song. We have all the time in the world.
But presumably they would have
that song.
But presumably they would have 5,000 years and 3 hours because they were 5,000 years in the past. Yeah. They would just travel to the time before it blew up.
So,
but is that not the proper time? Are they then out of sync with their own timeline if they do that is the question. Meaning when they traveled back to 3 hours before if they traveled back to 3 hours before the nova happened.
Who are the they?
Let's say Spock and McCoy traveled 5,000 years in the past and hung out there for 3 days. If they then traveled to 3 hours before the supernova, would they be out of sync with their original time, meaning they would meet up with copies of themselves?
Well, not if they timed it right. Well, maybe that's okay. Okay, that doesn't seem. No, I'm sorry. That doesn't seem to be how the portal system works.
Yeah,
right.
I think it works
because it's portals. It's not
it's whatever way
physics.
works the best for the
episode. So since it's a portal, when they walk back,
portals ain't physics.
So when they walk, we
got to put that on a t-shirt. That's gonna be our next t-shirt.
Portals is magic.
So if they
portals
go through the portal. And supernova's happening 3 hours. They travel back in time through the portal. They hang out for 2 hours. Then when they go back through the portal, it'll take them to 1 hour before the supernova. Is what you're saying?
I think so.
I unfortunately do not have a satisfactory answer.
So the question is, you travel through the portal. You don't get to travel to whatever time you want. You travel back to the present. So any time you spent in the past will be equal to the time in the future. So if you wait 2 hours in the past, you travel through the portal, you'll be 2 hours forward in the present as well.
I don't know, man. Shut the fuck up.
Am I having trouble communicating my thoughts?
No.
Holograms.
Your thoughts are the things that make sense. What does not make sense is the way they've structured this. So you're attempting to map a rational construct onto something that is inherently irrational.
This is one of the places Zorkon sends people when he wants them to disappear.
Don't mix logic and time travel.
Oh, okay. All right. We're running out of time. But so we need to get this because there's other stuff to get through here because other peculiar things about this whole Zarabeth situation. Her hair is real nice.
Yeah,
you got real pretty hair.
Yeah, how do you do that in the
Hey, you got real pretty hair, eh?
What kind of shampoo is she using?
What kind of shampoo do you use, huh?
I don't know. Is she using like heating up like a rock
Forget
or something
about it.
to like
Right?
get those curls in there, straighten her hair and get the curls? You know?
I know, dude.
But yes, her hair is very nice. And the whole Spock preparation thing, like they seem to imply that Kirk is going to die soon if he doesn't get back since he wasn't prepared. But the implication isn't there for Spock, right? So she knows that he wasn't prepared, but she thinks that he's going to be able to hang out with her indefinitely. But if the same
she doesn't know. She doesn't know. That's why we can't blame her because she can only assume that he was prepared.
Okay, that's a good point.
She has no reason to assume he wasn't.
Yeah. In which case, then, yeah, he would have stuck around. But in reality, he wouldn't. It gets very confusing because if the logic applies across both the time zone things, dimensions, whatever you want to call it. So, I don't know. I think, it was an extra deadline, an extra bit of drama, a drama generator that I think was not entirely necessary.
And here, another drama generator that was completely unnecessary and made no fucking sense. For some reason, Spock and McCoy can only go back through the portal if they do so at the same time, because that's how they came in.
That's how you came in.
So
that's how you gotta go. That's
how they have
that
to do
made perfect sense to me.
That's
that one I was like, hey, of course.
And but it's like, why did they even need to include that little bit?
That's how it works on television.
That little bit of drama right there. Why was that necessary? The rules are they're just making them up as they go along. Like, why did they even need to add that part? And I thought that they were being a little too casual about getting back to the ship at the end. Like, they were all like, chatting about the end. Kirk was all like pontificating about some shit, and like, and then Scotty's just like, dude, we gotta fucking go, man.
Right, I know, yeah.
You know. And he was taking. They should have got the let out. It's kind of like
when Scotty says it's time to go. It's time
to go. Well, the fucking TNG episode where they repeat time over and over. Why am I forgetting that fucking that great episode of
Cause and Effect?
Cause and Effect, where like Data is like explaining like what's happening and what he thinks they should do, and he's like turning around and he's like, Captain, I believe I know there's somebody. He's like talking all slowly. Meanwhile, this big fucking thing is like coming at him in the background. And he's like, well, here, I thought about this for a long time. And it's like, just fucking spit it out, man. You know, we got shit to do.
We discussed that episode, and
it was long ago.
Does anybody have the number for that one?
I don't. Not off the top of my head.
Yeah,
not off
Cause and Effect.
Check it out.
Kirk's all slowly.
Go to the website.
Kirk's all slowly.
Check it out.
He's all slowly going to him. He's like, he had his escape planned all along. And Scotty's like, it's now or never. That was a terrible accent. I don't even know why I tried to do it.
It's now or never.
I'm not gonna do it. It's now or never.
You look like you're about to puke.
But rude. Raphael is cool, but rude.
But rude.
All right. Zarabeth, her costume renders her largely nude.
Yeah, that was weird
Nude.
too. Why was she wearing so little clothing in such a cold place?
She had an outside fursuit.
She
on.
did.
This is 1969.
Yeah, but
and TOS was famous for the scantily clad female characters usually.
Yeah.
But what was interesting, according to Memory Alpha, was, and I don't know if this is an apocryphal story or not, but she was not permitted to show her belly button, right? And which
that's usually the norm.
But this is the first time this happened on, according to Memory Alpha again, on TOS, before they were able to show the belly buttons, and it was over time the censors actually got stricter, and we heard about that with I Dream of Jeannie and some other shows where the costumes couldn't show the belly button, but obviously they were fine with it showing almost everything else.
Yeah. We've talked about this before.
Which is pretty, it's wild when you're watching a 60s show, and in some ways it's very like morally black and white and simplistic. In other ways you're just like, Jesus, what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very period.
Yeah.
Purient, I say.
Right.
But the other little addendum to that story is apparently Roddenberry was of course frustrated and annoyed by that whole belly button thing, and he had, I believe it was the same actress. I think it was Marietta Hartley. For his show Genesis 2, which didn't take off.
Genesis does. You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does. 16-bit.
She was
you
in that
can't
show,
do this on Nintendo.
Peyton Place, that was a big show in the 60s, and so was the actor that played the woman that we don't understand.
Well,
Anna Catherine Morrow as woman.
In Genesis 2,
can't do this on Nintendo.
According to Memory Alpha, again, it's all on them. It's all on Memory Alpha, according to them. Roddenberry had her character have 2 belly buttons because, as he put it, he said, I think it was NBC owed him one because they wouldn't let him show the belly button in this episode.
She had 2 belly buttons in this episode?
No. Listen, in Genesis 2, a totally separate show.
You can't do this on Nintendo.
See, this is why you're not getting it. This is why, sir.
16-bit.
This is why, sir.
You don't have Double Dragon 2.
Oh, I do so.
Anyway, forget about that. 2 belly buttons, no belly buttons. It's irrelevant. It was sort of interesting. I mean, I thought it was a beautiful costume, right? It was the costuming on TOS was by and large pretty awesome. I know occasionally it got pretty ridiculous, but
what happens if you have multiple babies? Do you have?
Oh, you mean wait?
She's dead now.
Well,
dead.
Justin, I'm fairly certain, being a father yourself.
well, the belly button comes from when you're a baby.
Yes, exactly. There you go. You got it.
Yeah. It's not an inside-out belly button.
It's like you got all these babies like flying out of your belly button.
Yeah.
It's like you have all these you have 10 babies. All attached to cords all over your stomach, like nipples on a dog or something.
No, I don't like it.
Or a pig, nipples on a pig.
I don't like it. I don't like it. It's scary. It's upsetting. There was that whole.
So silly.
There was that library zoom in face.
Oh yeah, that face was awesome.
What was up with that?
I don't know, but I noticed that too.
That's the kind of shit that happens in a library.
Yeah.
So Kirk was accused of thievery and purse cutting, apparently.
Yes.
Purse cutting.
Yeah, it was
purse cutting.
Yeah, he goes, Kirk says, yes, I deny it. I was reading in the library when I heard her scream. And then there's a fucking weird zoom, and then it followed up by a kind of an awkward shot, not awkward, but this really centered close-up of Kirk's face that was also fucking weird. That zoom was really fucking weird.
It was weird and upsetting, and the film quality was all bizarre. Too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grain on that particular scene. I don't know. A very, very proto horror movie.
Yeah, but that dude's face, Judge's face, was all floopty-doopty. It was all like
very floopty-doopty.
Humpty Dumpty.
Shatner's hair was occasionally floopty-doopty. In the HD, on the big screen, you can see little individual wisps of hair that obviously nobody would have noticed on an old TV, but you can just see it where it's just they didn't brush it down entirely.
I know no island Earth. What are you doing? What are you doing?
What you
doing?
I also thought it was a kind of a funny subtle little joke about Mr. Atos being aggravated that a file disk was in the wrong place, and then he was putting it in the right place, even though the whole place was going to blow up in 3 hours.
That is good.
It was like a good librarian joke, because that's what a librarian would care about. That it doesn't matter that it's all going to be vaporized in a second. He's like, I got to put this in the right place.
Speaking of that scene, what does this sound like to you?
I can bring you another fart.
And I can bring you another fart.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
If these won't do, I can bring you another fart.
It sounds like he's saying file.
No, he's not.
I can bring you another fart.
He's very clearly saying fart.
I can bring you another fart.
It is without a doubt.
I'm not joking, Lee.
What he's saying. The a person who wrote the episode, Jean Lisette Arosti? Aroesti?
How do you spell it?
Jean Lisette Aroeste.
Right.
Arasti.
God, that is weird.
It's an interesting name.
A roasty. I think it's a roasty.
She wrote a couple of Star Treks.
A roasty.
I thought
Ariaste. I think it's Ariaste.
Okay.
Arroyaste.
Okay.
Arroyaste.
Say what now?
Aroeste.
Horses. Arroyaste.
Aroeste.
There are no witches. Why do you deny it?
Why do you deny it? Anyway, she was a...
There are witches. There are!
She was a librarian at UCLA at the time she was writing this, or around that time. So I thought it was very clever that she was able to incorporate that her experience as a librarian into the plot of the.
I will not speak to you! I will not hear it!
Because libraries are the tallest buildings because of all the stories.
By the way, another error I noticed in Spock, and this was after he had returned to his regular time, but he made a very big logical error, glaring logical error that threw me off a bit and confused me and upset me. Because at the end, McCoy's all saying, like, this whole shit, went down. This crazy shit just went down.
Mm-hmm.
And Spock was like, yeah, but it was like 5,000 years ago, and she's dead.
Right.
Dead and buried long
She's
ago.
dead now. Dead and buried.
Dead and buried.
Yeah.
She's not buried. She's alone.
Yeah.
Who was buried?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Bare bones.
She's
baby.
probably like it. Like,
She's just dusty old bones.
Dusty
full
old
of green
bones
dust.
out in the-
Full
out
of
in
green
the
dust.
tundra.
She's probably in like an ice.
Well, she's probably in the cave.
She's probably frozen.
bones.
She's probably in a frozen ice thing.
No, she's just in the cave as bones.
As bones.
Yes, because it's
not frozen. It's not freezing in
yeah.
the cave.
Unless she was out, then she got injured.
She rotted away in the cave.
You'd call it bones.
Bones.
Probably not a lot of parasites.
Bones. Her final look at the camera, I thought was very cinematic. It was almost bizarrely cinematic for TOS. And
I don't like that.
TOS had his own style, but it generally wasn't really sort of truly dramatic and cinematic in sort of an artful way. And something about Zarabeth looking at the camera with her hair blowing in the wind, and it just really looked like you were watching a movie instead of. Well, that's what I'm saying. Cinematic. That's what I said.
Well, when she said this,
I've longed to hear you say it.
there was kind of a side shot also of her making like an interesting face, like a profile of her that also kind of looked. She was like looking off in the distance. It was like
harps.
It was like
there was
a lot
harps.
of harps. Yeah.
You don't usually have that many.
Final
harps.
thoughts, concluding thoughts.
Okay, so McCoy was all red and sweaty.
Yes,
I'm wondering if
it was interesting.
Do you think that
his eyes
it was hot in that? It was hot in that cave.
Well, Spock, Leonard Nimoy wasn't red and sweaty.
Well, he's covered in green makeup, and he looked extra green in certain shots.
He had copper-based green blood.
So you don't think that like why am I fucking? I can't remember names for shit.
Zarabeth?
No.
McCoy. Spock.
No.
Antonio Salieri.
No.
Bubba Smith.
It was
Tony Pesto.
Tony Pesto. No, DeForest Kelly.
DeForest Kelly.
Was he known to be a drinker or anything like that?
I don't have a specific recollection.
Because none of them. He was the only red and sweaty one.
Did you think he was like having some like withdrawal symptoms?
He was the oldest.
No,
on the cast.
I think that not withdrawal. Just like he had just had a few drinks, and so he was all toasty. I don't want to defame anyone. It's not defaming. He can drink. I don't fucking care. That's not talking bad about him.
Yeah.
I just
It's
don't
old
want to.
Hollywood.
I just don't want to say something that isn't
look
true.
it up. We'll have to look it up.
But it was interesting. They did a great job of making Spock look fucking menacing.
Yes.
In this whole thing.
Yes, he looked extra alien and creepy and weird.
I don't like that. I don't think I ever did, and now I'm sure.
Yes, that part. He looked like when he was like looking at McCoy sternly, like that made me scared.
Yeah, it was.
Like,
it was
I think
good.
he was the first one to die, wasn't he?
What?
DeForest Kelly.
He was. Yes.
Yeah.
Get this through your head.
And then do it.
I should be able to resolve this problem logically.
I like how he all starts freaking out.
Logically. I should.
Yeah, man, it was like fucking freaky. Like I really got the impression that like Spock is scary.
Dan's giving himself a half Nelson right now.
I'm giving myself.
He just has an.
If it pleases you.
The episode, it's one of those ones in my book. It falls into the.
I don't think I ever did, and now I'm sure.
Worth watching. It's a little cobbled together. There's some great ideas here. Unfortunately, some of the most interesting ideas go somewhat unexamined, but it's still interesting. It made me this episode made me think in a lot of different ways, even though I had to navigate some dumb stuff.
I liked how like what McCoy casually when he what was the line? It was McCoy gives his usual line. You listen to me, you pointed-eared Vulcan, which is like not like that's not uncommon for McCoy to say.
Sure.
And Spock always blows it off, and then like Spock gives that line where he says, "I don't." He's like, "I don't like that. I don't think I did." And what is it? As it goes,
I don't like that. I don't think I ever did, and now I'm sure.
Like after McCoy said that, and I liked how that's a line that McCoy constantly says to Spock.
Yeah.
This time it got him, and when he says, "I don't think I ever did," implies that like it's always kind of irked him a little bit.
Yes.
So I thought that was kind of.
I agree. I thought that was good and good character moment.
Yeah,
even
it was.
right at the end of the series.
Right. Also when Spock goes,
More beautiful than any dream of beauty I've ever known. You are beautiful.
and then he smiles, and when he smiled there, all I could think of was the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. Like, you ever look that up on YouTube if you haven't. You have to watch the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
Don't watch it right before bed.
Yeah, it's a music video. It is upsetting, but like that's all I can think of when I see Leonard Nimoy smile in that way now, because that's the only time you ever see him smile is in that fucking video. I'm sure in real life too, but I've never seen him in real life.
Also in The Cage, briefly.
Yeah. La Cage
aux Folles.
The bird cage.
Yes.
We know that because of the movie.
Oh, he smiles at that funny plant.
Yes. He smiles at the plant. And
I do not know who I am.
you get some smiling on Strange New Worlds. There's a couple of Spock smiles. Okay, anyway. Enough of that. Enough of that episode. It was fun.
Move along.
Next week, we will have Dan's algorithm spit out some episodes for us to watch.
Smalgorithm.
Could be TNG, could be Deep Space Nine, could be Enterprise. Probably one of those three.
Run.
We'll have a few weeks before Discovery starts.
Yeah, Discovery starts soon, so we're
Yeah,
looking
I'm
forward to
psyched.
that.
I've been missing some Discovery.
Right.
The trailer came out today and it looks really exciting
We'll have
and
that
intense.
whole shit to do.
Yeah. All right. But
Discovery, like as usual, Discovery is intense, and like I've been kind of missing that intensity.
It's nice to have a break, and it's now it's time
maybe
to get some more.
maybe the new Discovery won't be as intense.
I think it'll be even more intense.
And when you said nude Discovery, I thought you said nudist.
Nude Discovery. Jesse has made a nude Discovery.
No, I thought he said nudist covery.
I have
nudist,
a very
like,
lazy way
you're
of speaking.
you're a covery that is a nudist.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for enjoying this episode. We're going to presume that you've enjoyed this episode, or at least
presuming a lot. I think.
Sufficient parts of it.
There was some good no's in this episode.
Yeah.
No.
That Shatner no in particular is very good. That's
No.
like one to save.
Yeah, that's when
No.
when Scotty's like, we want to beam you up now, and Kirk's like,
No.
So
What are you doing?
you can find out what we'll be discussing next week by following us on social media. That's at It's Got Star Trek at all the major ones that you can presume that we might be on.
We'll tell you the wrong one.
I'm game, love.
We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube again at It's Got Star Trek. Find us there. Subscribe there. Patreon if you are so inclined, and at patreon.com/It's Got Star Trek, and you can sign up for free.
As far as I could tell.
So check it out.
that was a good delivery of Kirk.
As far as I could tell.
It was a good one. All right. Yeah, I think I said most of the things I'm supposed to say at the end, right?
No.
Okay, great. With that, we will bid you
Smell you later.
adieu.
Put that thing away.
Put that thing away.
Are you all right?
Oh, I took you to be an angler. But you're none of us, are you? Well, you're a bully fine coup for all of that. What a handsome dish you served them, the coxcombs.
You better come back with me to the library. You'll be safe there. Dr. McCoy can see to those bruises.
I'm game, love. Leading or follow. Where's library?